Okay, I think we're live. Hopefully we're going to YouTube live stream as I speak. Hello and welcome. Sorry, to this live Q&A with me, Mike Buchanan, leader of the political party Justice for Men and Boys and the Women Who Love Them, and Elizabeth Hobson, a former party leader until recently, and an anti-feminist gender equality activist. We're joined by a legend of the men's rights movement, Karen Straughan, aka GirlWritesWhat. And I know she hates it when she's called a legend, but that's one of the penalties you pay for being a legend. It may be a cliche to say guests need no introduction, but in Karen's case, it's simply a statement of the blindingly obvious. In my view, and in the view of many MRAs I've known for many years, the men's rights and anti-feminist movements have never had a more eloquent or influential advocate. At the last online ICMI, Elizabeth and I had the pleasure of interviewing Karen. There's a link to that video in the low bar. To illustrate the respect in which Karen is held, just a few days ago, I had an email with an anecdote from an American donor to our party who'd attended the 2019 International Conference on Men's Issues in Chicago, where Karen was the main MC and did a great job, it has to be said. Alison Tiemann, by contrast, couldn't be bothered to turn up, but that's another story altogether.
Not fair.
She was stopped at the border, but you know,
and banned for 5 years.
I mean, a real Canadian wouldn't have. She would have gone over the Rockies or something. But anyway, let's move on.
She would have ridden some elephants over the Himalayas.
Exactly. At some point, Karen popped out of the building for a cigarette, something she did several times. And as so often happens with Karen, a small crowd gathered around her as she sat smoking and talking. A man came up to the edge of the crowd and said cheerfully, "Hey, what's going on?" Now, it seems a number of people, according to this guy who emailed me, it seems a number of people swiveled around and glared angrily at the man. And someone hissed, "Shut up! Karen is talking!" Karen, a very warm welcome. And may I say how well you're looking, considering a huge elm tree fell on your car recently.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's the middle of a heat wave. My hair is soaked. Right, everything is soaked. Like, we're just drenching in sweat. It feels like Florida in Miami, Florida in July right now here. And of course, we only have about 2 weeks of this every year in Edmonton, so nobody actually gets air conditioning installed in their homes. So we just live with it for a couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm a little sticky. But thank you for the compliment. This is a haircut that's about 3 months old, done by my 18-year-old son. And it looked really bad when he did it. It looks even worse now. So
it looks sensational now, Karen.
Yeah, I like it. You did
the headphones are the camouflage.
Extra pocket money.
Yeah, well, you know, they've started actually day before yesterday, the hair salons were back open. So I'm waiting for the big mad rush to be over, and then I'll go and get my hair cut properly. But yeah, it's been kind of a little bit ridiculous here. So,
and here too, kind of a bit ridiculous. But I did make the possibly mistake of asking Twitter if they had any questions for you, and I've been like just trawling through question after question after question. So shall we get stuck in?
Sure. I mean, like, I'm no longer on Twitter. I've been banned for life, so I can't ask any of my former Twitter followers, do you have any questions for me? So yes, I'd love to hear. I'd
like to kick off with the wonderful and wise Fiedelbogen.
Oh, sure.
See one for you.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to know how we can effectively break the current mono-branding model that we are stuck in. Specifically, currently the activated non-feminist sector is equated in the public mind with male identitarian politics, men's rights as opposed to feminism's wrongs.
Oh. I think you just have to actually attack feminist ideology. You have to basically say this, like, yes, there is a men's rights movement. There is such a thing as men's rights, right? There is such a thing as feminism. And those two things, or as anti-feminism, those two things don't necessarily overlap that much. When you look at traditionalists, they're often very opposed to feminism, but they're also opposed to certain male rights. Like this is just how it is, right? But it's one of those conversations that is so nuanced and so complex. It's one of those things that you can only really it's the difference between that 5-minute segment on, say, CNN or Fox News and a 2-hour conversation on some sort of dissident podcast somewhere, Joe Rogan maybe, or Jordan Peterson or something like that. That's where you are able to unpack all of those differences. Most people just don't have the attention span for it. So I think a lot of this stuff is just going to be something that there's not a whole lot we can do about. I guess like neither men's rights nor, well, I guess anti-feminism does to a certain degree, but men's rights certainly doesn't lend itself. It's certainly not one of those positions that is that sloganeering works for, right? Where you just like write something brief, a brief message on a placard, and you hold it up, and everybody knows what you're talking about. It's not necessarily like that. And same with anti-feminism. It's like you can say things like my little slogan, which is anti-feminism is the radical notion that women are adults, but people don't necessarily know what you're talking about until you explain it to them, right? So it's like we're constantly in a position of having to explain the joke, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we need people with attention spans to actually be able to come on board and get on board with these ideas. And I mean, like, there's hope, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I mean,
one of the sorry, Ellie, go on.
I was just going to say, when you say people need to have the joke explained to them, maybe there's a subversive power in that, because I recall when you said we need to make feminism cool in order to get these herd animal women on board.
Anti-feminism,
yeah. And maybe.
Well, but I mean, anti-feminism is many things, right? Like the problem is that anti-feminism is many things, right? So they're like MGTOW and men's rights activists and sort of radical equalists, I guess you would say, that they're all anti-feminist. But they're all coming from different directions. They all have different sets of goals. So you're looking, we're fair weather friends, effectively, in terms of battling the ideology, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to agree on where society needs to go or anything like that. So, and I don't even have a prescription as to where society needs to go, other than that men and women need to like get back together as part of a team in some form or other. So,
speaking of fair weather friends, I've got a question here coming from the Scottish Libertarian Party. They ask, are TERFs actually serious about free speech? Or is it a case of free speech for me, but not for thee?
I think almost everybody, probably about 80% of people, are pro-free speech when it benefits them. And then they just turn on a dime, and when the cultural narrative, the permissible narrative, is in line with their views, they tend to forget about that whole free speech thing. It's not free speech for me, but not for thee. It's free speech when it's convenient and not when it's not. And so, I mean, I would think that about 20% of the population are free speech absolutists, right? Like they're just like, you know, and I've actually said to somebody, you know, he was, oh God, when I talked circles around him in a YouTube comment section the other day, then he started calling me a dyke. Well, he didn't call me a dyke. He called me a lesbian who's desperate, who can't get a man, blah, blah, blah. My husband obviously dumped me because he couldn't put up with my shit and blah, 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 right? All that crap, right? And I was like, oh, well, that's very progressive of you to say. And he says, well, what, you know, next thing you know, you'll be calling me a lesbo and a dyke. And he says, well, do you want me to call you those things? And I'm like, call me whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. Right? Because I'm a free speech absolutist. But it just really doesn't make you, as someone who claims to be a progressive, look very good when you're lobbing those kinds of unsubstantiated insults at somebody in order to try and get them to back off from an argument. So,
yeah,
I wonder if I might come in here with a question that Sir Skeptic posted before we started. He said, we'd all like to know that the message is spreading. Can someone create an accessible database of all the interviews Karen has done since she dropped off the radar? So perhaps the first question is, have you dropped off the radar?
Oh, I've dropped off the YouTube radar in terms of my channel and also my blog, but I have been doing lots of interviews on, you know, like drive time radio and stuff like that, mostly down in the US, mostly with conservative stations. Sorry, I'm just so sticky right now and I need to, I do have if you go to my blog, owningyourshit.blogspot.com, you can find a bunch of interviews that were updated probably about a year ago. Under you just search link roundup or something like that, you know, and you'll find a bunch of links. And, you know, that's everything from morning drive time radio in Cincinnati, Ohio, to Dr. Drew Pinsky and stuff like that, right? So it's, you know, like this is one of the things that it's a trade-off because, you know, I do like the affirmation and the attention and stuff when I'm like on my channel and I'm saying things that people want to hear and all of that. And they give me all this positive feedback. But, you know, most of my thesis is already posted on my channel. And there's not a whole lot I can really add to that. But what I can do is put that information in front, you know, like get virgin bums on new seats. And, you know, so it's not like I don't want to just preach to a choir. I want to actually expand this and get people who wouldn't otherwise be exposed to it thinking about it. So, and that's what these radio interviews, some of them are regional, some of them are national, you know, some of them are podcasts and stuff like that are available to anybody. And so, I mean, like, that's really what I want to do is get all of these ideas in front of a new audience. So, and it's certainly not a whole lot of money. But, you know, YouTube was starting to be, I don't know if I should say this, but they were starting to be really cunty. You know, like they take 30% of everything that you earn through your channel. And then on top of that, the IRS takes 24% of what's left over. And then when they've demonetized or restricted monetization, limited monetization on your videos, restricted a bunch of them to 18 and older and all of that, then what you have is a situation where, like, you know, when I was at my peak, just through YouTube's partner program, I was making, you know, sometimes $1,500–1,700 a month. You know, and this is just, I was a smallish channel at the time. But now it's 3–4 months before I can even get a payment that meets the $300 threshold where they pay out. So I mean, it's not worth the money for me. Long form content, you know, there's only so much you can do. I guess I could sort of do one of those things where I just, you know, cycle through new things constantly and give the same opinion on the new things, but that's not really what I'm about, you know. So I've just basically gone to, like, trying to raise awareness among people who are not already aware. So yeah.
No, I think that's great. Elizabeth, do you want to go carry on with some more of your questions?
Sure, I've got so many, it's hard to choose which one next. Oh, this one's cute. Okay. Prawn of Patriarchy says that feminists and their buddies delight in calling female MRAs pick-me's. If Karen could be picked by anyone or any being on Earth or up in the cosmos, who would she want to be picked by and why?
Well, the man that I'm with.
Oh
no, he's
He's
great.
in the room, isn't he? He's in the room.
He's in his office. He's in his office doing important work. But no, he's wonderful. I mean, I've always had you know, problems meshing with men, right? You know, like I've always had. They always, you know, they fall really hard and fast. They're like, oh my God, you're different from any other woman I've ever met. And then like 3 months later, they're like, oh my God, you're different from every other woman I've ever met. Ugh. So, you know, like they're like, what did I get myself into? So, but he is at least as weird as I am. And that makes us work together very well. And so, yeah, we just mesh perfectly, and he's great, you know, like he's just he's a hard worker, he's ambitious, but he's not materialistic, you know, like it's
and
he doesn't care that, you know, I dress in a tank top and ratty jeans all the time.
And he's got a great name too.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's got a great name. We're not going to say it because, you know, he has an image to uphold in the corporate world, but so.
Okay.
But it's Mike. It is Mike.
Can I just come to the online? I'll do some online. If we could alternate, Elizabeth, I'll do some of the chat questions. And Richard Champagne, I'm sure that's his real name, asked a couple of things. I'll very quickly. Will you do another chat with Stardust? And did Jordan Peterson ever watch your response on MGTOW?
I'm sure Jordan Peterson watched my response, because very quickly thereafter he was asked by someone, is there anything that you've ever regretted saying? And he said that his comments on MGTOW were out of line and based on, you know, not really knowing what was going on, like the full context. So I'm pretty sure he watched that. I know he's watched a lot of my content. As far as Stardust, I'd be happy to do another.
And this was Karen. Sorry, I happen to know he saw a lot of your content before he became famous.
Yes. Oh yeah. No. I think because he and I spoke about. Oh God, it was a few months before we spoke on Skype. A few months before, because I was like a total Jordan Peterson fangirl, just based on his appearances on The Agenda with Steve Paikin, which is a TV Ontario current events show. And I'm sure he saw some of my comments and then watched some of my content, and then he reached out to me and he wanted to talk. And so we had about an hour of just discussing stuff. And he asked me, we talked about various things about society and stuff. But then, the last 20 minutes or so of the conversation, he was asking me, like, what's been the response of, that you've received on for speaking your mind on YouTube, for speaking your mind on these issues. And I said, well, it's been overwhelmingly positive. I felt really bad, actually, when he, a few weeks later, he came out with that video that launched him into like a world of freaking trouble. Because I was like, oh my God, was he basing that decision to do that video on our conversation? Right. But then he started raking in millions of dollars and I wasn't feeling quite so bad anymore. So, but yeah, no, like, I think he, I know that he saw what I said about MGTOW. I'm sure that he's paid attention to me insofar as, like, what I do crosses paths with what he does. But yeah, no, and as far as Stardust, I would happily do another interview with him. I mean, I've done 2 or 3 or something at this point. So like, I'm fond of him. He's a sweetie. So
awesome. Is it my turn? Let's have a look. Okay, Keith Nolan is interested to know, nobody can deny that modern feminism has its roots firmly in America, spreading its bile from home base. I ask why? Why do women in a country where they have little to nothing to worry about, protected by law, why have they embraced feminism so easily?
Okay, modern feminism? Oh no, this is one of those things where it's kind of like, okay, is it America? Is it the UK? Is it Australia? Is it, is it all of these other places? No, like the English speaking world that has a sort of a common tradition or a shared tradition of English common law, right? They've all been co-opted. And, okay, you can say, well, it was America first that did it, but no, it was Carolyn Norton, in the UK, who brought in the what was it called? The Women and Infants Act or something like that.
10 years.
Sorry?
Was it the 10 years doctrine?
Yeah, with the Tender Years Doctrine. And then you look at, where was Mary Wollstonecraft from, right? Where were all of these people from? Where did Simone de Beauvoir get her credentials? Yeah, that wasn't in America, that was in France, right? So I mean, like, you're looking at, this is not something that can be nailed down to just America. Yes, America is leading the charge right now in terms of wokeness, but this is something that, it's like one country gets an idea, they get it into their idiot heads to do something, make some like retarded change, and then everybody else is like, well, that sounds like a good idea. It's great for the women folk, and then they all do it, and so it's like, and it doesn't matter, like, Canada is ahead of the United States on a number of, issues that you would call wokeist or whatever, right? Like, they're ahead of the charge, in terms of reforming sexual assault law and things like that, compared to the US. So I mean, we're all just, and the reason why we're doing all of this is because women don't have anything real to worry about.
Okay, that's Karen. I have a question from Mouse Utopia Dystopia, and it would help all of us, certainly including myself, if you would just explain the question before answering it. Mouse Utopia Dystopia says, Karen, what would be the result of instituting hardcore libertarian rugged individualism in brackets, borderline anarcho-capitalism, close brackets, on intersexual dynamics. If you gave me money, I couldn't understand that question. So please, hopefully you do.
Oh, that what he's saying is let's get the government out of marriage, right? Let's get the government, like, so basically what he's saying is, okay, so in intersexual relationships, or intersexual relations, yeah, no, that would be basically a pure meritocracy and purely by voluntary contract. So it wouldn't be, you know, and this is, like I said to the guys on the, oh God, some radio show that I did when I was in New Hampshire at the Freedom Project Forum. Someone asked me during the break in the radio show, you know, would you suggest, you know, like what advice would you give to someone, to a man who was thinking of getting married? And I was like, don't, because you're signing a legally binding blank piece of paper, and the terms of the contract you're signing will be written in by the government, by some branch of the government at the time when one of the parties decides to dissolve the contract. Like, that's not a contract. You know, like, so what he's saying is, you know, if we could actually get a situation where there was a contract, you know, where individuals could actually decide what marriage means to them and what contract they want to sign, you know, and then maybe have a periodic renewal of the re-examination and renewal of the contract between the two parties involved, right? Without the government just mandating that the man owes her a living for the rest of her life and the woman never has to suck his dick again. And everything's fine, because that's what marriage is right now, right? So, like, that, this is literally, and she never has to cook another meal. She just collects his money. So yeah, that's really what he's getting at. And I think that maybe that would be one way to deal with the issue of marriage and divorce law, is to just actually make it a negotiated contract between two individuals that's enforceable in the courts. Right now we have prenuptial agreements, but courts decide based on family law to just completely throw those out whenever they feel like it. So,
and men keep going down the aisle.
They really keep jumping out of the goddamn plane.
I mean, knowing that half the parachutes are going to fail. Those sound like good odds.
Yeah, no, is this the line to give up half my shit? Yeah,
I believe, Mike.
Sorry, Ellie.
I said some men do it twice, I believe.
Oh, more than twice.
That's a fair point.
You look at someone like Larry King. He's got like he had like 4 or 5 exes that he was paying. You know, like, and you look at some of these like out of control. Like, how did Bill Burr put it? You know, Tiger Woods's ex-wife was like a glorified babysitter walking around with $250 million.
And what were the chances that Jeff Bezos's wife would jump ship, or Bill Gates? What are the bloody chances?
100%. They just stuck it out. They stuck it out long enough that the courts would side in their favor and say, yeah, no, she deserves half. She stuck it out long enough to deserve half.
I mean, in the case of Bezos's wife, it's are you going to keep married to this guy, or do you want $50 billion? It's a tough one. You need to roll that around.
Well, you know what her situation is. If she divorces him and takes half his fortune, right? And then she shows up drunk one night at his apartment and says, "Let's get it on." He's gonna say yes. Right, but she's not going to have to pick up his dirty socks or organize dinner parties for him anymore. Put up with his bullshit, right? You know, like she can just I mean, she has all the access that she previously had to sex with Jeff Bezos. Because I mean, look at the guy. He's not filling up his swipe rights on Tinder anytime soon.
He looks like a Bond villain, doesn't he? I mean, what? Apart
Yeah,
from
he looks like a Bond villain with Bell's palsy. He's like Ernst Stavros Blofeld. All he needs is a freaking hairless cat.
Ellie, on to you.
Yeah. So, AJ Grumblestitch, if you could remove or add one law for the benefit and well-being of men and boys in Canada, what would it be?
If there was one, just one, I mean, part of me wants to say default father custody. But another part of me says women should not be able to vote or hold office. Because the one would just kind of fix one situation. And it wouldn't fix all cases because sometimes the father shouldn't be the one who gets custody. But I think that a lot of what we've seen is basically over the last however long is just women pushing, certain politically activated women pushing an agenda and having the ability in the public sphere to do that. So, I mean,
I'm not entirely convinced that.
Oh, it's not all women. It's not all a problem of women doing this, because men totally cooperate with women in this way.
Yeah. I wonder how different the situation would be had women never voted or taken office, and I'm not convinced it would be that similar to what we see.
I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say because men are actually a huge part of the problem, particularly men in power. What Alison Tiemann described as apexual males, men who really don't identify with other men. They identify with a position in the intrasexual male status hierarchy. Did you fix your bike?
Yeah. Well, the gear shifting mechanism is fucked, so I can't sort of start the gear. All
right. Well, that's good. Okay.
It was because some random cord that helps switch.
All right. I'm on a live stream right now, but all right. I'm proud of you, son.
Who's watching?
Oh, everybody. Everybody.
Barack Obama.
Yes, Barack Obama. Oh my God.
Okay.
Sorry, I think that a lot of what has happened has been because women have sort of poured out of their constraints, right? Like both men and women have historically been constrained, right? And women have been just allowed free reign, and men remain constrained. And, in the ways that they have always been constrained. Like, you're not allowed to have, as a husband, you're not allowed to have an expectation of your wife, right? Like, you can't, I mean, a woman can literally rip a page out of a home and garden magazine, hand it to her husband, and say, make the yard look like this. And nobody's allowed to complain about that she has gendered expectations of her husband, right? But a man can't pull a page out of a culinary magazine and say, make this meal tonight, because that would be imposing unfair gender roles on his wife. And it's like I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, you know, it's really, really, really difficult to, because so much of our legal structure and so much of our cultural fabric is now in this sort of women are wonderful, and we can't expect anything of them, and men are horrible and we can expect the universe of them. That I don't know whether there's any one thing that you could change that would fix
I mean,
problem.
you know, my concern with the idea of default custody going to fathers is that it would have the same impact that making legal aid only available to people who alleged they were victims of domestic abuse had in the UK, i.e., you would see a clamour of mothers trying to claim falsely that those fathers were unfit.
Oh yeah, no, and the thing too is, right, like this is what comes up when anybody suggests, you know, like a false accusation, a false allegation of sexual assault should result in the same prison time that the accused would have served if he was convicted. But I'm thinking, well, we already have a situation where in some cases women who faced really no penalty for recanting stuck with their accusation right up until the point where they were like definitively proved wrong, proved to be liars with evidence, you know, Hofstra, Duke Lacrosse, all of that, right? They would have stuck with it all the way to a conviction. And that's without the whole idea of, yeah, if I actually admit that I lied, right, then I'm going to prison for 20 years, right? Like this is, you can't, it's a very, very complicated problem. And you know, you can't set up a situation where women who have made false allegations are disincentivized from recanting, because if you do that, then no woman's going to recant and you're just going to have more wrongful convictions, right? So it's like we're in a hot mess. It's like a horrible mess.
But then saying that, you know, the shared parenting legislation that was brought in Kentucky saw allegations of abuse plummet. So perhaps we just need to be in the middle.
Well, what we had in Canada, because I think Parliament voted the shared parenting bill down. This was years ago. This was before 2014, the 2014 ICMI. And I asked Senator Ann Cools, why Parliament would vote that down. And she actually said it was a bad bill. And it was a bad bill because an allegation of abuse would basically put the burden on the accused parent to prove themselves innocent in order to be able to actually exercise any kind of parental rights, right? It had this fail-safe. So default shared custody. But if there's an allegation of abuse, then the accused parent needs to absolve themselves, needs to prove themselves innocent before they actually can access that. And she was just like, that's not something that you would want to see. No. You know, like that. But at the same time, I mean, you're looking at situations where there are abusive situations, and it's like it's very, very difficult to balance these things. It's very, very difficult to balance the rights of the accused with the rights of the victims and all of those things. And we all know, I think all of us here know, that both men and women can be villains and can be victims. So it's just, I think, you know, I guess ungendering everything might be one law that I could get behind. Just ungender everything that's in the legal statutes and the criminal codes and stuff. So
Okay. Can I come onto the chat stream again? Some interesting questions. Michael Abbott makes an interesting point. Some of the guys watching this right now look a lot like Jeff Bezos, and you really hurt their feelings.
Oh no, I didn't. You
I
know,
don't think he was. I don't think that was directed at you. It probably me.
yeah, no, but you know they don't look a lot like Jeff Bezos. You know why? Because they don't have
Jeff Bezos is
They
so
don't
much
have
more.
$8,000 suits on.
There is that difference. The same guy, Michael Abbott, and my thanks to him for his contribution to the last live stream. Touches on the point that's often raised when we say that men shouldn't get married. But how should men go about having children if they won't get married?
Surrogacy, I guess, adoption, or just don't. I mean, it sucks, but you know, or you know, I would suggest Dr. Sean Smith. He's a psychologist. He's got a YouTube channel. He was at ICMI 19. And he gives advice, really good advice to men on how to vet potential partners, you know, in terms of what red flags to look for. And, you know, like if her mother behaves a certain way, you don't want anything to do with her, things like that. So, you know, like, but you have to, like, I'm not saying that, you know, no man should ever get married or have children within a committed partnership ever. What I am saying is that you're going to need to do a lot of I mean, you're going to need to go through the kind of background checking that, you know, the CIA and the FBI and, you know, all kinds of other people do when they're looking to hire people, right? You want to download that form that you fill out to get a security clearance with the US and like copy that basically and have her fill it out, right? You want to know every single thing about her and have that be vetted because
right. But I mean, we all know
and
that
independently vetted. Don't just take her word for it.
But we all know that romantic love is a mental illness. There's a very good book by a guy, I can't remember his name now. Frank Tallis. He's a psychologist, British psychologist, called Love Sick.
Yeah.
And it's about how romantic love is a mental illness, and it's required so that men will, you know, have more than 2 kids, basically, so that the species can carry on. And men, you know, even rich men, I guess, won't do those checks, will they? They'll just lose half their money, and they'll find a woman who'll take half of what's left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask a question from our friend Michael Abbott. Actually, he asked me to ask you whether Eve is to blame for eating the apple, or whether society is to blame for offering Eve apples.
Well, doesn't that equate society with Satan? I don't think society is Satan. And no, Eve is to blame. She was told. She was told not to eat it. She was told by society not to eat it. Right? Society being the thing that created everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The thing that's in charge of everything. She was told not to eat it. Don't eat that. It's a bad idea. And she was like, oh, wow, this seems like a good idea. So, I mean, I don't think society is to blame for offering her the apple. I guess what he's talking about maybe is like, it's society that's to blame for presenting tempting things to people. But I don't see that as a problem because the only way to build character is to overcome hardships and resist temptation and, you know, resist the easy outs and all of those things, right? That's how you build character in your kids.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't fix my kid's bike for him. So
But society being, you know, what built everything, you know, it's telling Eve at the moment that it's good to eat the apples, isn't it? You know, whereas even the story had that warning. There's no such warning for most women.
Oh, there's no warning right now. It's like right now, society is telling kids to go on puberty blockers at age 12 and then get cross-sex hormone therapy at age 14 and, you know, and then book their double mastectomy at, you know, for their 18th birthday. So, I mean, like society is telling right now, telling people all kinds of messed up things, right? But this is not indicative of a healthy society. I think a healthy society was, you know, like you warn people away from doing things that are bad for them and guide them towards things that are good for them and for others, right? And what we have right now, I wouldn't consider a healthy society on that kind of level. So.
We have about 15 minutes left, Karen. I'd just like to put an interesting one here from Pau Emantega, and my apologies if I'm sure I've mispronounced that. A question for Karen: do women lose the ability to make good decisions because they're infantilized during childhood?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
next question.
I mean, not. Yes, when you bail your daughter out of every single conundrum she encounters, when you rescue her from every situation, she doesn't learn how to make proper decisions. And so, yeah, no, it's definitely, it's not a good thing.
And that wasn't something that your dad did, I recall.
Oh, no, not at all. No, he was a tough bastard. Expected toughness in his daughters.
The one you told so many good stories about him over the years. One was that you'd say, "Daddy, Dad, I'm hurt. Where's the blood?"
Yeah, no blood doesn't hurt.
There had to be blood, and the day that there was blood, there's hardly any blood.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. There's hardly any blood. It was stop being a pussy.
And that's how you became a legend. It's down to him, really, isn't it?
My mom was just as tough. So,
wasn't she pruning or axing trees when she was 8 months pregnant in the middle of winter or something?
No. It was in the middle of a heat wave.
I've got all this wrong.
Heat wave. She was out in a bikini, 7 months pregnant with me, chopping down a birch tree in the front yard. Because the crews were putting in the new sidewalks and curbs and stuff. And so she went out there, she started chopping, and then she asked them if they wanted some lemonade and coffee, and went in and made them some lemonade and coffee, and then kindly asked them to cut the curbs at our driveway so that, which wasn't actually installed yet, so that, you know, when we installed it, we wouldn't have to go down the big bump. And yeah, no, she was, and then she spread the concrete for that driveway, also in a bikini and rubber boots, and screeded it with my dad. So, I mean, she was pretty freaking badass. So both my parents and my grandmother and my grandfather, so, and my other grandfather.
Elizabeth, over to you, I think.
Dad of three, are you instinctively anti-authoritarian?
No. I'm instinctively questioning. So I always question authority, but I don't generally just have a knee-jerk objection to it. So I believe in reasonable laws and reasonable enforcement of those laws, things like that. But I definitely question the rules and question the enforcement of those rules. So You know, like for instance, I've had COVID. I recovered. I was one of the early adopters of the virus back in January of 2020, and so I have immunity. I don't wear a mask, and it's the law that I should have to wear a mask, and I don't wear one. And anybody who says, you know, you need to wear a mask, I say I can't wear one. Sorry. You know, like I have issues with, you know, blood pressure and vascular conditions and stuff like that that make putting on that mask very, very puts me in danger of passing out in the middle of the grocery store. So I just refuse to wear one. And if anybody says, well, we refuse your service, I'll say, well, you know, there you go. Up yours, and I'll go somewhere else. But it's, you know, like I feel like I can get away with that because I've already had it, so I can't get it again, and I can't spread it to anyone, and so I'm of danger to no one. And you know, like I understand that the rules are the way they are for a reason, and I think that they're mostly overblown in terms of they're an overreaction, but I can understand why. I mean, you can go to my any of my comments on YouTube videos about COVID, and I lay out exactly, you know, why I think that Boris Johnson doing a 180 on the herd immunity strategy was understandable, was completely understandable, given what I've uncovered over the last year and what he probably knew at the time, right? So it's like, you know, you have to understand that, you know, rules are not for breaking unless they're stupid.
Karen, oh, sorry, is it my turn or yours, Elizabeth?
Your turn.
Okay. Richard Champagne again. How should young men handle OnlyFans? It's such a prevalent phenomenon, becoming normalized.
How should they handle it? Stay away. Why does that bitch deserve your money?
$5 a month. $5 a month. $5 a month to get a beautiful woman to love you. That's
no,
pretty damn cheap.
She doesn't love you.
What?
She doesn't love you.
Even
like,
for $5 a month.
Go to fucking YouPorn. Right? Because that bitch is selling herself for $5 a month to you. Right? You know, and it's like, go to YouPorn, watch some fucking porn, some real porn, not some teasing like, ooh, I might show you the edge of my nipple. Right? If you send me an extra $25, yeah, no, fuck that shit. Like, why are you throwing your money away on this crap? Like, go out and get a hooker. You can pay $100, get the full girlfriend experience. She'll actually have sex with you and then talk with you while you unload all of your horrors, your psychological baggage across the pillow on her. And she'll thank you and go away.
But if it's $5, she'll probably have 6 or 7 teeth, Karen. Well, that's a problem. Christos Lavrentidis says, I want a t-shirt with Karen's face that says, stop being a pussy.
That's right. All right. I've had merch people soliciting me to get to, so maybe submit some fan art for me. GirlWritesWhat? Stop being a pussy.
Elizabeth.
I'd wear it. You know, I've just got like pages and pages now of people saying, I don't have a question, but I just want to thank Karen. And I found a particularly sweet one from a guy called Ross, who says, just thanks for waking me up. I watched atheist videos and became a BuzzFeed type feminist. Could not listen to Sargon at the time as he sounded angry. And Karen literally shattered my worldview, as in I could literally see the glass break and fall away. Tar. XX.
Well, that's lovely. I always like hearing about hearing those kinds of things, because it's like I do have my videos where I'm angry. You those are generally response videos to like specific feminist screeds and stuff. But I do have my sort of long form thesis videos that I try and be calm and present everything in a sort of measured way. And I think that those are the ones that actually pull people in and get people to be able to listen to it for long enough that the message actually has a chance of sinking in. So I thank you so much for that message. That was really nice.
I have one from Bernard Meigs, who did a very good video for the last conference and is one of the organizers of the coming conference, ICMI 2021.icmi.info. Question for Karen: if you can think of one that actually exists, what is the most male/boy positive form of entertainment media in the present day? For example, a movie, a show, a book.
I don't know. Like I don't watch a lot of entertainment, and I don't read a lot of fiction books. So, but if I were to suggest something that presents a positive masculinity that's also in keeping with, presenting women with flaws, but also with sort of a capacity to redeem themselves. Okay, I would actually say if you wanted some family friendly and just you'd have to like ignore all the F words and the C words in this because it's set in Britain. So and in British soccer, in particular British football. But Ted Lasso, it's a series on Amazon Prime, no, on Apple TV, and it really gets to the heart of the ridiculousness of people, the pettiness of people, the redeemability of people, what women do that is self-destructive, what men do that's self-destructive, right? And it's just a very, very sweet series about an American football coach from Kansas, college football coach from Kansas, who gets hired to coach a third-rate British soccer team. Gets hired to manage them, and he's basically set up to fail at the start, and he manages to really pull everything together. And it's just there was only one episode that made me cry because I was sad, but there were other episodes that made me cry because they were hopeful. So
okay,
and it just portrays men and women as kind of equally flawed and equally.
Well, that's different. Richard Champagne asks if you could ask Justine Trudeau, as we tend to call him, Trudeau, one question to his face, what will it be?
Why do you keep speaking moistly on me?
Sorry, Karen, can you explain that?
Oh, wash your hands, cough into your elbows. These are the things we know.
It's just getting even more mysterious.
If people want to wear a mask, that is okay. These are the things we know that prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly.
I think she's lost it, Elizabeth. She's lost it, isn't she?
No, somebody took a press conference of his and turned it into a remix. Look it up on YouTube. Speaking moistly. It is it is freaking hilarious because you can see in the press conference as he's like, you know, the mask doesn't protect you; it prevents you from, and you can tell moistly. Speaking moistly is in his brain, and now his lexicon is closed. Right, the dictionary is slammed shut. That's his only option. It's the most horrific image on the planet. And he's like, you can see this look of terror, this existential panic in his eyes as he knows it's coming out. It's coming out. It prevents you from speaking moistly on other people.
Okay.
And then he's like, oh, what a terrible image.
I think our time's almost up. I'm sorry to say, Karen, but
I just hate him. I just hate him. I hate him. He's such a pansy. He cannot stand up to anybody.
No,
and he was trained to be a feminist by his mother, who deserted his dad during, you know, a critical time in his political career to go party with the Rolling Stones and bang all the members of that rock band. And Pierre Trudeau was left standing there trying to make excuses for like where his wife was. He didn't know. And yeah. She's out banging the Rolling Stones.
Uber guy says, I love Karen. I'd ask her out on the dance floor at a party.
No, and I'd say no because I don't.
We all would.
I'm really gorky. I'm a worse dancer than I am a singer.
Okay. Karen, it's been, as I was sure it was, an absolute delight. Thank you so much for giving us an hour. Thank you for everyone who contributed questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to them all. There were just so many.
Well, throw any questions in the comments of the YouTube video that didn't get answered, and I'll see if I can't get to them. So,
okay, and just finally, just very, very quickly, having said we're just wrapping up, your ICMI 21 talk. Can you say anything about that? You're also going to be doing a live Q&A. I'm pleased.
Yes.
Pleased to know, but can you tell us anything about the video or not?
Oh, it's a presentation that I actually gave in Toronto a while back, but they didn't record it. I was like actually quite upset because I was really, really happy with it. But it is on how the possibly 4,000-year-old text of the Epic of Gilgamesh completely disproves feminist ideas about toxic masculinity. So basically, I'm trying to unpack the entirety of recorded human history and debunk the feminist narrative about men at the same time. So
look forward to that.
Watch.
Karen Straughan, GirlWritesWhat, thank you so much. We all love you. We all love you. And yeah, that's it. It's a wrap.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Thank you.